In today's fast-paced real estate landscape, success demands more than surface-level expertise. It requires insight, adaptability, proven strategies, discipline, and the ability to take risk. The Agent Brew podcast blends candid conversations with wisdom from industry leaders who've walked the path before you. Think of us as your strategic pit stop to fuel your real estate journey. From the crossroads of the world in the heart of Times Square, welcome to the Agent Brew. I'm your host, Eric Zollinger of Realty Co. This is a podcast that percolates real estate insights. Welcome to our viewers and listeners. We're so excited to have you here today, especially as we welcome our guest, Mr. Vince Rocco of Brown Harris Stevens here in New York City. Hello, Vince.
Good afternoon, Eric. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on our show since I've been on your show. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're watching this, you're certainly aware of who Vince Rocco is. He is a legend in his own right. Has a podcast that's 10 years running. He's in one of the top 100 podcasts of all podcasts. Someone I consider a very good friend. And very few of you will know this, but I'm privileged enough to have done one of Vince's first deals in his first year in real estate, back in the day on West 47th Street in the year 2002, I think.
Wow. Yes. Way back when, I like to say, way back when.
So Vince, again, welcome. Let's get started. And can you share with the audience, if you could give yourself an elevator pitch of your business today? What is it overall? Where do you focus and what is your business made of? And then we'll walk back to the younger years afterwards.
Yeah. So usually what I tell people when I meet them for the first time, whether it's a seller, a buyer or a renter or a landlord, I tell them that, because I think years in the industry matter. I've been in the industry for 23 years. As a professional in real estate, actually doing deals and talking to people, and that my expertise and my knowledge in the industry, and it's a vast industry, no matter how small we try and make it, it's a vast industry with multiple different markets, multiple different neighborhoods within markets. And I think I have a very good feel of all the markets and a good knowledge of all of the markets that, we all play in, whether it's uptown, downtown, one of the other boroughs. And I also tell them that, my thinking and my approach to all of the transactions I get involved in, and I promise them that I will make their, whatever they're doing, buying, selling, renting, as smooth as possible and very successful. I mean, we have a lot of competition out there, and not everybody can do what everybody else can do. But I feel like, because I've been around for a long time, and I also talk about the industry of real estate quite a lot, and teach it, and that I have a lot to bring to the table. And, I hope that when I do talk about that stuff to people I meet for the first time, that they buy it and they buy into it and want to work with me.
So as far as your business, you're with Brown Harris Stevens, correct?
Correct.
And how long have you been with them? But I know you started at Halstead, I think?
I became a real estate agent 23 years ago, actually this month, at Halstead property. And I worked at Halstead for many years, and then I left for about 3 or 4 years, and I opened my own brokerage called Blue Realty Group, and I did that for about 4 years. As a managing partner with 4 other partners, I was responsible for growing the sales force, for training and teaching and coaching the sales force, and at the same time, I was continuing to do my own business, both the development business and resale business. After I left and worked in my own company for 4 years, managing agents and partnering with, 4 or 5 other guys, I came back because I really missed working in new development. So I was back only a couple of years before Halstead and Brown Harris merged. It was during the COVID pandemic, I guess, when business was not great for lots of companies. So the parent company, Terra Holdings, decided to put Brown Harris and Halstead together as one company, and we have been that now for almost 5 years. It was really a seamless merge because we all knew each other anyway. Most of our management stayed. I still have the same manager I had when I was at Halstead. So seamless, easy, and I love it. I mean, I love working for Brown Harris Stevens and what they've done for me. And we'll talk about it later. And you talk about my show. has been unbelievable. So I really, truly love it. And yeah, you mentioned the fact that I had a corporate life rather before I became a real estate agent. And these are the days when I feel like I think, getting so much older and time is flying by. But I graduated college with a teaching degree. I taught school for 1 year and decided, you know what? This is really not for me. And the real reason it wasn't for me at the time, being in my 20s, was that I didn't feel like I was making enough money. All of my friends were graduating, going into business and making lots and lots more money than me. Said, you know what? I'm going to look in corporate America. Now, I was trained as a school teacher in college. What did I know about working in corporate America? I didn't know financing. I didn't know banking. I didn't know anything. I got a job at IBM. And I got a job at IBM in their corporate litigation department, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was corporate litigation.
Yeah, I was working on the antitrust lawsuit that the U.S. government had at the time against IBM. And basically, my role was, along with lots of other needs, to support the on-site legal team for Bath, Swain, and Moore that were brought in to defend IBM against the U.S. government. And lo and behold, 2 years of that, and believe me, we worked around the clock, literally. I kind of know now what law firms are all about. I was a paralegal without a title because I think you think paralegal was a title then, whatever. But we won the case. IBM won, and we were exonerated, and we moved on. And then for me, because they were then going to close down the corporate litigation department, I went on to the sales market, branch office rather, in New York City. And I worked for IBM in the sales offices as an administrator first, and then as a salesperson, the balance of my career for about 13 years. And then I left.
So from there, you went to real estate. And I'm curious to know, were you able to leverage all of your relationships from that former corporate life into jumpstarting you into real estate?
No, not really.
Oh,
Again, spending many, many years in real estate, I'm sorry, in corporate America, working with companies. I mean, I'm not going to say no, I didn't at all, but I didn't leverage it in a way, or was able to leverage it in a way where it off, in a monster way. This business is very funny. It's, trickle here, trickle there, trickle here, trickle there. So over the years, people started coming out of the woodwork, but not necessarily because I went from one career to the next. I don't know that real estate was so big on people's minds back in the 90s here in New York City, my impression.
so did you come into the game then? You were basically starting from scratch and you built everything organically, and which is very difficult as a second career.
I'll never forget my first day in the office. My manager, at the time, at Halstead, walked me over to a desk, said, here's your desk, here's your computer, here's your telephone, patted me on the back and said, good luck, and come talk to me anytime you need it. And that's exactly what I did. I laughed and I sat here and said, what the hell did I just get myself involved in here? Of course, I thought I knew everything, as, most younger folk do. And I had bought and sold a few apartments before I actually became an agent. So I knew the process, and that's kind of what turned me on to wanting to become a real estate agent. I had gone to school for my license about 2 years before I actually parked it with a firm and started working. I was doing very, very well in corporate America, making a lot of money. And people would say to me, why do you want to do this? What are you out of your mind? Real estate agents don't make any money. There's no salary. There's no benefits. There's no anything. I'm like, yeah, well.
So then when you started in real estate, did you grow up in New York? Is that, were you able to leverage, early relationships before IBM, or?
I grew up in Westchester County, which is north of here. But I was already living in New York City when I became a real estate agent. So the answer to your question is yes. I was able to leverage or, get in front of people from my past, a little bit from, the corporate days, a lot from my family and friend network, and just putting myself out there and figuring out ways to get myself out there, introduce myself to people in a new career. Hey, by the way, I'm a real estate agent now. You have any friends and family members, loved ones who want to buy real estate? I'm here to help you.
So then why real estate? What was that procuring cause that got you to make the jump into the industry?
Well, because I had been buying and selling apartments before I was an agent. While I lived in corporate America, I bought an apartment, was bored with it, sold it, bought another one, bought an apartment, sold it. And so my real estate agent at the time worked at corporate, and she used to laugh and say to me, "You're like my annual annuity. You're good for at least two transactions a year. I buy a transaction and a sell transaction." And I'm like, "You're damn right." And that's only because I'm bored. I just liked the process. I liked the industry. I liked real estate. So sort of what propelled me into thinking, you know what? It's something that I like. I wanted to get out of corporate work anyway. I was bored with the whole corporate America and politics and whatever else. And I just said, you know what? Did that for, almost 20 years, enough. It's time to move on. And look, the freedom that comes with being a real estate agent, at times, the flexibility of schedule is all very intriguing.
So it begs the question, did you have any mentors early on that really guided you and that really led you to the path of success?
Yeah, I will credit, the people that I work with right up front in the Upper West Side office of Falstead. I mean, I sat on a lane, we named it Diva Lane. It was so funny. We were about 7 or 8 of us, and we all sat, in one long corridor. And they were all in the business long before me. They were all on their way to becoming really successful. And if you look at any one of them today, I was privileged to be able to sit among them, and not only sit among them to listen and learn and ask questions. They allowed me to ask questions, and even not most, either senior or experienced agents don't want to be bothered. They're way too busy, to give advice to anybody else. Not only did they invite me to ask questions and to talk to them regularly, sales pitches, they invited me out on their showings with buyers. I mean, I was really very fortunate that I had, those mentors. And like I said, there were about 7 or 8 of them, not even just one.
So Vince, in your long career, what would you say are some of your wins over that time, and why is that important to you?
I guess over the years, there's been a lot of wins. I mean, if you want to talk about wins, I mean, every exclusive that you get is a win. Every sale that you participate in and close is a win. I've had a bunch of deals with that I closed, but some important people that were very happy, or just buyers in general that were very happy with their purchases after working with other people, or looking for a long time and not being able to find the right property until I came along, which was a good thing. But also a lot of the wins that I like to consider big wins for me are all the buildings and developments that I've sold, working with the developers for months and months and months before we even go to marketplace, helping pick out flooring and pick out furniture, staging, helping pick out cabinetry, working. My company does a great job up front before buildings are ready. So when I work on a project from the beginning and I get all of that stuff up front done with the developer, and then we go to market and I sell an entire building,
There's
it's
nothing
really
like it,
hard.
right? I mean, it's
There's
so
nothing like it.
incredible.
You've done it. I mean, it's a feeling of major accomplishment. It's a feeling of, wow, I could do this as a career, which I've done for most of my 23 years, 16 or 17 years of new development sales, almost exclusively. But I get a lot out of it. I appreciate the process. And I'm not one of these transactional agents who need to rush to closing and get paychecks. Yes, I need a paycheck, but I like the whole creative process from start to finish. And then the sweet part of all of it is when closings begin, people start moving in, and the building becomes a building, and that's what it is. And I go back in one building in particular. I've been reselling and renting and whatever in that building for the last 17 years. In fact, I'm heading there
Wow.
this afternoon. Yeah.
So what is of all the projects you've worked on, what is your favorite?
My favorite is the building I'm going to this afternoon, 505 West 47th Street. I have been in that building now for 17 years, and I get most of the resales and rentals. And I mean, I know the door staff as if they were my own door staff here where I live. The super and I are very close. In fact, he just did a little project for me this afternoon that I asked him to do for me. I mean, they keep saying to me they're going to put a plaque with my name on the wall, and they should. Yeah, they should. But I just enjoyed being there. I sit in the lobby, in between appointments, and I see all the clients coming and going that I've worked with or need to work with, whatever. So that probably is my favorite. I mean, I've had a lot. I had a beautiful project out in Brooklyn that I enjoyed on Henry Street. There are a lot of them, but 505 West 47th Street, if I, on my tombstone someday, that address is going to be on my tombstone.
So I want to say the second win um, definitely has to be your podcast, I would think, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that in a minute, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. So out of all the wins I've had, and all the transactions I've done, whether it's new development or resale or rental, things that gives me the greatest peace of mind or the greatest piece of happiness is my podcast. But you mentioned earlier, it began 10 years ago. We just celebrated our 400th episode last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, that's literally about 40 shows a year. I mean, we do this every week, every Tuesday morning, 40 shows a year. I take about 10 or 12 weeks off, throughout the year, just kind of break it up and spread it out over, holidays and summertime.
And so our listeners know, what is the official name of your podcast and where can they find it?
Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Listen, it takes a village, okay? But I've gone on record on social media and to anybody who wants to talk about it, it's my happy place. It's where I most enjoy being. I write the whole show. I produce the whole show. I book the whole show. Brown Harris Stevens built me a studio in their headquarter office on Park Avenue.
And it's a beautiful studio too. My goodness. Wow.
You've been there. And I, we've upgraded the show over the years. Once I got to this new studio, now we're also shooting video every week for YouTube in addition to the podcast audio. So it's one take, it's one shot, and both things are going on at the same time. I'm reading the teleprompter, I'm interviewing people, we're taking a break. I mean, it's just a regular. I consider it like a real TV production that goes from start to finish over 1 hour, all edited, in the background, without my interrupting, because believe me, I have no idea how to do any of that. And it comes all fine. And the show drops every every Thursday on podcast and every Friday morning on YouTube. So we're at it for a long time. The guests I've had, the executives I've had, I'm so grateful, and I thank everybody. And our numbers over the past year, we've always had great numbers and ratings and stuff, but especially since YouTube has started, I mean, we're talking an average of about 11 to 13,000 viewers per week just on YouTube. That doesn't even include the podcast number. So I hate to use the word institution because it makes it sound, something that's very old, but show has really become, quite an institution, and it's carved its own path.
Well, I mean, you started to do this before podcasts were even like you're.
I didn't even know what a podcast. I didn't even know what a podcast was. I was recruited to do this, and I kind of hung up on the guy saying, "What the hell are you talking about? What is a podcast? I have no time for this. I'm home with the flu. I'm sick. Leave me alone." And he called back and he said, "Listen," and from that, hey, listen, here I am 10 years later. So
I guess one of the questions most of our viewers is going to want to know: has it impacted your business, and in what way?
That's a moving target and a very good question. It impacts my business at times in a positive way, and then it doesn't have an impact. Meaning, I can go for a stretch of period where I don't get any lead or business out of it, and that's fine. And I have to tell you the truth, and I tell this to anybody who asks me. I don't do this for the lead. I don't do this for business purposes. I mean, it sounds weird. First of all, you have to understand something. If it were on television where people can see you every week and see, whatever, those guys and gals, get lots of leads, make big business, big deals. It's a whole different genre. I do it for the educational purposes and the information purposes, and to get the word out around the world. My show is global, about New York City real estate. If I get something out of it, which I have and will continue to, that's the icing on the cake. But getting leads is not necessarily my focus, because quite frankly, I don't know how to do that. I mean, how else would I do it other than just doing what I do, right?
It's not about the bricks and mortar.
Correct. And I really thoroughly enjoy it. And people, I have to tell you, you've been on, but people, anytime I've asked somebody to come on the show, in fact, I was booking a couple of weeks in advance this morning, it's an immediate yes. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
yeah, how could I say no? It's like, absolutely, I'll be there.
Well, Vince, your content is relevant. It is, trending. It's always the pulse of the market. Also, you're a good guy. Like, who doesn't want to come on and talk to Vince, right? Because it's a very positive experience, and I just know that it's one of the things I look forward to each and every week. Um, to just hearing you and seeing what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and my network now, the more network at Brown Harris Stevens, they've got, I don't know, a total of about 13 shows now. Mine, of course, is the leading show. Mine is the highest rated, whatever. It's good to have competition, and it's good to have your eyes open to see what everybody else is doing. But I've got a set format. We really haven't, we tweak it every once in a while, but we haven't really changed it because I don't think it needs to be changed. And people enjoy it, and people listen for, the updated topics every week or who's coming on every week. And I have to say, outside of maybe 2 or 3 in 10 years, every one of my guests have been very good, very articulate, very knowledgeable, easy to talk to. And I have to tell you the truth, it's been a learning experience for me because as I tell people all the time, I learn something every week as I'm going through the show. When somebody is talking to me about whatever my question was, I don't know everything. I thoroughly enjoy the process. It takes a lot to write and produce and get it all done, but I ain't changing up, man.
So let's flip it then to the other side. We've talked about your wins. What about any transformational losses over your career, or even personally that really ended up being a win, but it was a major loss at the time?
Yeah, I remember selling a penthouse at one point, and we've had a deal, and all of a sudden, and I'm sure many, many agents have the same situation. All of a sudden, it went away. They changed their mind, they got 12 feet, whatever. They were back, and at the time, it was an selling. It was one of the highest priced units. And so I didn't know how to react to it. I was like, well, okay, so they backed out the first time. Are they going to do it again? Am I going to close this deal? Whatever. And I did. Another one was I was working with a townhouse buyer who was almost impossible to find the right house. And he wanted to be in a specific neighborhood on the Upper West Side. I mean, it wasn't, like this, all that many neighborhoods to go to. He only wanted to be in one area. And he had a very, very high budget. And we kept looking around, and I was ready to write it off. Like, you know what? We've all been there. This guy's driving me crazy. It's not going to work, whatever. Something, the purchase price was 19 million and we negotiated it down a bit. He didn't pay 19, so I kind of wrote that off as a potential loss. Again, with a little bit of perseverance and focus and determination. I hate to say it, but I think almost everything is possible. The old cliche, anything is possible.
Absolutely. So this is a question I ask the vast majority of my guests. As far as your daily routine, do you have a daily routine, or is it something that you just, you have certain tasks that you do each day and you just do them when you can fill them in? Or is there that routine every day you wake up in the morning?
I love that question, Eric. Yes, of course, I have a routine. Every morning, I have the same routine, regardless of what hour I'm starting or needing to be somewhere or whatever. That is, I get up, I run into the kitchen, I put the pot of coffee on, and I wait for that pot of coffee to finish. And I have a couple of sips of coffee before I pick this thing up and see what my day is actually going to be like. And every day is different because if I'm teaching all day, I'm out of the house early. If I'm podcasting that day, I'm out of the house early. If I'm showing, that usually doesn't happen until later in the afternoon. So I have the mornings at home where I can maybe work on next week's show, maybe, get some facts together for a show I have later that afternoon. So every day is different, but the days always start with that pot of coffee, that first cup of coffee in my home. And it kind of does something for me up here where it's like I'm having my coffee in my house. I made it. And when I finish that, Now I'm ready to start my day. But you know, real estate, every day is different. You don't know.
Every day is different. That's part of the fun of it, right?
The flexibility of it, the fun of it. Yeah.
The art of the possibility, as one of my clients recently said to me, and it just really clicked, really resonated with me. The art of the possibility. You know what? There's just, as long as you know what all is out there and are given a certain opportunity, then you can make the decisions. So um, let's play the gratitude game. I don't know if you've played this before. I play it with every guest. It's basically the rose, thorn, bud. But because we're the agent brew, we like to throw a little twist of coffee in there. So think of it, instead of rose, we start with the aroma. It's, yes, there's a national commercial all about it, the fresh aroma when you wake up and smell that freshly brewing coffee. It's almost an instant win, right? So I guess, is there anything, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What's that shot of that sweet aroma?
You know, the thought of that fresh coffee going to be percolating in a few minutes gets me out of bed. But more importantly, though, I have to tell you, and cliche maybe, whatever, but me, every day is a different day. Every day is a brand new day. And every day in my world, in real estate, I don't ever know what's going to happen. I might have a set schedule, but sometimes it gets thrown away. But I wake up, enthusiastic about what my day is going to be about, whatever I make it to be. I live my life, and this is a fact. I live my life, and I have now for many, many years, with several thoughts in mind. I wake up and I say to myself, I want to learn something new every day. I don't care what it is, a small little tidbit, a very big fact, whatever. I want to learn something new every day. But also by the end of the day, when I come back home and I settle down for either dinner or a martini, whatever it may be, I want to be able to say to myself, hey, were you memorable today? Because to me, being memorable is everything. And what I try and tell younger agents as I'm teaching them in continuing ed or new school, whatever, they're put here on this earth to do things that we like, things that we want to do, but we have to be really good at it. And we also have to understand that we have to be able to leave an impression behind us and be memorable. And you got to figure out ways that you can be memorable every day, not just once in a while, once every week, whatever, every day. And so when I get up in the morning, these are the thoughts I had. What am I going to do today? What am I going to learn today? And how the hell am I going to be yesterday?
So very intentional. Like, you start the day with that intention, and I love it. And you end the day with that intention.
And you know why it's intentional? I call it structure, because in our business of real estate, we are so unstructured, and we can be so flexible that we have to find for ourselves. And I find the agents who go off path can't get themselves into a structure. And so what I try and do is structure myself. I'm not even out of bed yet, and these are the thoughts that go, in my come out of my mouth.
So then this begs the question, when I go to the second rose, which happens to be the brew, that real cup of coffee, what is your why?
Wow, great questions.
Nothing like a deep, question for just a cup of Joe.
No, absolutely. But that cup of Joe is the first thing I do, right? As I said before. So that kind of is like the fuel that gets me to start thinking about, why am I going to do what I'm doing today? What is my why? My why is to be out there to help people, to strategize with people, to negotiate when I need to do that are benefiting my clients, my customers, whoever it may be. My why is to make sure that people understand who I am, appreciate the knowledge and the expertise I bring to the table, but more importantly, the way I do it. It's the way I just kind of be me.
So, these are two great wins, or your why, how you start the day. What about that thorn, which I like to think of as the coffee grounds, right? That can get messy and spill everywhere. Is there any obstacle right now or frustration you're working through?
Transportation. New York City is a devil to maneuver through. And I was carrying on about the other night on social media with congestion pricing and the cost of taxis or black car service. And the trains have been more packed than ever before. So I'm on the train more than I've ever been before. But my angst only lately is the transportation and getting around New York City. I mean, I used to love it. I mean, we're foot soldiers. We walk when we can, but I'm not walking from the Upper West Side to Midtown West or wherever. I mean, it's just not going to work that way. So it's really my biggest angst every day, is transportation. You think that it's convenient because we live in the city and everything we need to do is right here in the city. But it's a big old city and it takes a lot to maneuver through, more so than ever.
So I guess looking to the future, the fresh beans, the bud, whether it be your podcast or your business or personally, what are you looking forward to? What's that excitement?
Keep growing that bean. Okay. As I said earlier, it's, you're only as good, in show business, what do they say? You're only as good as your last gig. Okay.
You're only as good as your last contract.
In real estate, you're only as good as your last contract. Absolutely correct. To use the analogy. So we're constantly in a mode of trying to refresh, regroup, understand what just happened, good or bad, how we need to plan for that future. So it's always kind of like I'm always in future mode. What is next? What comes? I mean, I'm working on today, but I'm always thinking about, out there, because it has to be. In my future really only depends on what I do based on what I've done, what I've learned, how I've done it before, and how I want to improve it. Like I said, my future also includes being memorable. I have a thing about, being memorable. People call me a legend. People call me a whole bunch of things, which, okay, fine, I'll take it. But I want to be remembered for who I am or what I presented to, not only the world, but to our industry where I've been living and playing for 23 years. That industry is very important to me. So if I can impart my wisdom and my knowledge and my expertise to anyone, that's why I teach continuing ed. I teach once a week at New York Real Estate Institute. And I do that, I'm not doing it because I'm getting a ton of money for it. I'm doing it because I like doing what I'm doing and educating people and trying to make them better at who they are so they can find out. And one of the questions I ask them all the time, you must be listening to my class, is what is your why? I need to know what is your why. More importantly, you need to know what you're going. And that's how I start almost every class.
Wow. So this is my favorite part of the show. This is where I get to ask you, if you could tell your young agent self, not the young agents of today, because listen, we both know that's a very different time period. If you could tell your young agent self a piece of advice, knowing what you know today, what would it be?
Start out younger than you started out in this industry. That's for starters. I started after a full career in corporate America, which is fine. But if I had...
Yeah, but you've done great for yourself. You've done well, right? So
yes. But if I had a 20-year jump on that, it would have been even better. And I would probably also say to myself, take the hits, understand the failures, understand things that will not always go your way or go the right way. And because, when you're younger, you're just hot-headed and you don't understand. And why did that happen and whatever. So me as a younger agent, I would say, cool down, chill out, understand how to better focus, understand what you need to do to get the job done, start at a much, much younger age. And, we have to stand out, Eric. We have to be individual and unique and different. I say to people all the time, why would I call you? Who are you?
yeah. So I guess, what is your future? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, I see myself still doing this because I really have a passion for it and I really like it. Just growing and moving and I absolutely see myself podcasting. And I'd like to see myself at some point, I can't put years on it, but at some point teaching almost full time in real estate. I'd love to teach at NYU. I'd love to teach at, Fordham and the real estate programs.
I mean, maybe you start your own school.
Or start my own school, whatever, because I've certainly been doing it now for about 8 years. So it's funny how I started out as a teacher, and sometimes I see, the ending of a career being teaching probably more full time, because honestly, out of everything I do, even the podcast, I love, love, love to teach, and wisdom and show my experience and
And you're very good
help
at it.
people grow. Thank you. But that's kind of where I mean, kind of status quo 10 years from now, but better, more, and with thoughts of just continuing to move it forward. I can't say I want to go and do a different career, because I don't really want to do that.
Well, Vince, it's been such a privilege and honor to have you on our podcast, The Agent Brew. One of the things I like to end with, and it's very similar to you and your show, is all about a positive quote. And so I'm curious to know, do you have a positive quote that you would like to share with the audience?
I do, and I live by it. And when I saw that in your prep, I was like, yeah, okay, makes sense. And this has been in my signature line on and off for years, this quote, okay? It's by Karen Kaiser Clark, and it says, life is change. Change is optional, so choose wisely. And I use this quote when I'm teaching. I use it on my podcast all the time. One of the things you have to understand in real estate is the only consistent thing about real estate here in New York City is change.
Absolutely right.
Growth is your individual growth, or your individual ability to change with life. That's why I say choose wisely, or she says choose wisely. Some people say, oh my God, all these changes. Oh my God, I don't agree with it. Oh my God, it's driving me whatever crazy. Hey, you either jump on the bandwagon because that train is leaving the station, okay? And you're going to change with life, or you're not. So life is change. Change is optional. Choose wisely, because when you choose wisely, you're going to find that success at the end of the line.
I love that. And I chose today's quote on my side because thinking of you and knowing how I figured the conversation was going to go, and we touched upon this earlier, practice even what seems impossible. The left hand is useless at almost everything for lack of practice, but it guides the reins better than the right. From practice. And that's from Marcus Aurelius. So
It's so well said. I mean, it makes sense. None of us are born the expert, right? None of us.
And that was the advice my father always gave me. He goes, I don't care what you do. You can even become a chimney sweep or any kind of sweeper. Just become the expert at it, and you'll always succeed. So,
I sort of live by that mantra. When I get out of bed in the morning, to answer your question from before, this is what I think about. How to continue along the same lines that I've been, making myself do for years. And you can't change that. Got to practice, got to keep it going, got to dust it off, fall down a little bit. Falling down is okay. Falling down is okay.
Doesn't matter how many times you fall down. What matters is the number of times you get back up.
That's the answer.
So the Vince Rocco of Brown Harris Stevens here in Manhattan. Thank you for being with us today. Just a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And so just want to thank all of our viewers and listeners out there. Please join us again on another episode of The Agent Brew. I'm Eric Zollinger, reminding you that it's a great day for real estate. The Agent Brew podcast is brought to you by RealtyCo. RealtyCo is your partner in real estate, bringing you game-changing benefits and services to empower your business. Visit realtyco.com for more information.